Okay, you want to know the story? Here's how the story goes. It was about 5 months ago. I was walking downtown doing my usual chores, trying to take care of things for my boss. I worked with a guy who moved furniture for a living, and I was kind of his understudy, as pathetic as that might sound. But it was work. It's how I got my rent paid, it's how I managed to cover my bills, how I fed my pets, how I fed me. I was doing what I had to do, just like anybody else. Just like you, I'm sure. But once I was getting some groceries. Groceries weren't for me, you see. They were for my boss, because in addition to being a furniture mover's understudy, I was also kind of his work bitch. That's the best title I can come up with. I got him stuff from the grocery store, I took his kids to him from school. It was the only work option I had at the time, so it's the only thing I could do. But one day, I was walking out of the store. Guy really likes me to shop local, so I always ended up downtown. None of the big grocery chains or anything like that. He wanted to support the community because, well, shit, his business is part of the community. Probably just wants to keep the right friends in the right places, you know? But I'm turning around and I see one of those posters. You know, the things that concern family members of lost pets type of thing. You know, hey, my pet's gone. We're looking for it. If you know him, you know, dial the number, blah, 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 blah. And this one was pretty specific. It said, lost on the top, as you would expect. No reward or anything, and admittedly, as shitty as this sounds, that tempted me to not even care about it, but for some reason I just found myself reading. Lost. Small brown tabby with small ears, white stripe on the back, green eyes, answers to Felicity. If found, please call. And, you know, something about that poster was weird. Something about that poster was really weird. I wanted to call the number, and I'm not really sure why. Call it boredom or idiocy. So I pulled out my cell phone and I dialed the number. And it just rang for a while, just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. But then someone finally picked up. Yo. That's all they said. Just, yo. This is the right number to ask about Felicity, isn't it? I asked the guy on the other end. He sounded like he didn't have time for my bullshit, and I'm pretty sure he could tell I didn't actually know where the cat was. Because all he said was, yeah, and do you want her or not? Now at this point I was really confused. Want her? Weren't they looking for her? What? I responded to him. What do you mean, want her? Hey, pal, how the fuck did you get this number? You better hang up if you know what's good for you. And then I heard the harsh click of the phone on the other end being disconnected from the call, and I didn't really think much of it after that. Until I started seeing posters all over my neighborhood. And they weren't just for Felicity this time, they were for Michael and Matt and Jennifer and Toby. And these seemed like really weird names for cats and dogs. It was always a dog's name if it was male, and it was a cat's name if it was female. I just found that really odd. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, there are female dogs and there are male cats, so why was it always gender specific? But, that wasn't the weirdest part. The weirdest part was when I got a call back from the number, and it wasn't the same guy. It was a guy who sounded like English may not have been his first language, or even his second or his third. He was pretty choppy with it, and he didn't sound very happy about the fact that I had called. Why you call number? Do you have a reason to call number? Are you looking for Felicity? The man on the other end said. Aren't you looking for Felicity? Just sort of rolled out of my mouth, numbly. Buddy, he said, I don't know how you have number, but number is very specific. And if you are looking for people, you must know the right question to ask. If you do not know a question, how do you have number? You must forget number, friend. Forget the number. And he hung up after that. This started to seem like I had gotten myself into something that I should really just avoid. But I think it was too late. Because after a while, cars started parking near my house, lights off, in the middle of the night. Figures that I couldn't really make out just sitting outside of my house. I didn't know who they were, but I had my suspicions that it had something to do with me being a fucking idiot and calling that number. And a few months later, my suspicions proved true. When, in the middle of the night, they put a bag over my head and dragged me out of my house. And took me to a large building, which at first looked like a warehouse, but then I realized it wasn't just for storing boxes of old inventory or a shipping yard or something. There were people there, people in cages. Cages with their names printed on the outside and the corresponding poster that went with it. And I found Felicity's cage. She was this poor little girl, probably no older than 8, scared and confused. And they gave me a choice. I start working for them in the lost pet business, or I go in one of the cages. Say, hey, you called this number. Who are you looking for?